Good Vibrations.
It is Good Vibrations 185, and today I'm back chatting with my dude from across the pond, coming out of the Bronx, New York. You've heard him on previous shows. It's the host of the Infinite Fringe podcast and radio show, Billy Ray Valentine. Welcome back, brother.
Hey, man, happy to be here in my home away from home, across the pond. I'm very happy that you're having me back, brother. How are you doing? How is everyone in the Good Vibrations audience? Thank you very much, man.
No worries, man. Good days and bad. I think we're all going through those. And how's that Biden presidency working out for you guys out there?
Well, you know what I said the last time, and I'm going to stick to this. It's the same as it ever was. There is no difference. It's like that Twilight Zone. I don't know if you watched the Twilight Zone, but it's like I've been referencing a lot lately, the Twilight Zone, but it's like that episode where Eye of the Beholder, right? And they're doing surgery on this beautiful woman. Well, beautiful to us, but not necessarily to the race that they're doing, to the race that's performing the surgery. And when they unwrap her face, she still looks like a regular human would. The other, the doctors, they're pig people almost. They look very weird. And they unwrap her face and they go, no change, like they're all surprised. No change is what I have to say about Joe Biden. It is what it is, and what it has always been.
Just another day, same shit, different day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's. I mean, there are differences as far as the rhetoric that's thrown around and some of the volleyball issues, but that's what they let us argue about. They let us argue about the volleyball issues. They let us have certain things to think that we have an effect, when in reality, we don't.
Yeah, we've been trading Smith's lyrics by text. So I've got the one, what difference does it make, running through my head. So what difference does it make? And we were trading lyrics from How Soon Is Now. Right. The lyric I really like from that song, which applies to the show we're doing today, is the bit where Morrissey sings, when you say that it's happening now, when exactly do you mean? See, I've already waited so long, and now all hope is gone. And I feel that's a pretty good intro to this show, which is titled Q is a Psy-Op. So we may have lost half the audience already. And there'll be lots of discourse and fighting, pitting brother against brother. I was just saying to you there could be no more divisive subjects than Donald Trump / Q and Flat Earth, or possibly Paul McCartney. And I've done shows on all three.
Right.
But just before we get into this, I want to offer a bit of a disclaimer or caveat just to explain my position on all of this. So, being a truth researcher, I get exposed to a lot of information all day long, particularly in the last year. Inevitably, a lot of that is going to be disinformation and misinformation, and there's going to be a whole load of speculation and opinions. Don't know if you've noticed, but every pundit out there has an opinion on what's going on, and many of them claim to have inside intel as well, which the rest of us aren't privy to. So the scene is awash with shills and charlatans, as well as genuine researchers, and it does call for a very high level of discernment. So I consider all things that come my way, if it seems they have at least some potential merit, I'll have a look at it. And so it was with the claims I was hearing throughout last year and into this, claiming that there's an operation which is known as the Q plan, or it's sometimes referred to as q-anon. You hear that there's an alliance of so-called white hats, and the idea is that there are high-up military personnel, such as generals and such, who have been working in conjunction with Donald Trump to bring down the deep state cabal, which we all know about. Anyone that listens to my shows or yours will be familiar with that whole concept. The idea is that they've been working from the inside to bring down this control system and to expose the evil and the darkness. We hear that arrests of many of the key perpetrators have already taken place. We hear that doubles are being used, actors are being used to play the part of these people who in reality have either been incarcerated or executed at Guantanamo Bay for the most part. And so we're living in a movie, we're told. We're told that what's playing out now is all designed to wake up the masses, because you can't tell people about the evil that's been going on in our world. You have to show them. They have to see it with their own eyes. I don't really know where that leaves those of us who are already awake and aware, and went through our dark night of the soul several years ago, because what's being done to us right now is absolute psychological torture, because we don't know what the hell is going on. We're getting opinions from all sides, and we're left trying to make the best of it and trying to figure out what's happening. We know better than to believe the mainstream narrative, of course, that there's been a deadly virus, a pandemic over the past year, and that we're all being locked down and having our rights and freedoms taken away to keep us safe, because governments care about us like that, right? And then we had the whole farce and debacle of the American election last year. So the whole thing about Q and Trump has kind of been running in the background underneath the smokescreen of the scamdemic for this past year plus. And it's been very confusing, to say the least. So I've been prepared to accept that the Q plan might be a real thing, because I saw a few clues and indicators and pointers along the way last year which were consistent with the idea that this might be going on. All along, though, I also saw a whole bunch of red flags, and there were things that didn't sit well with me that I couldn't really explain, and they were kind of niggling away at me, getting under my skin, you know? So if anyone listens back to my shows of the past year, you will hear that I've entertained the idea that this Q plan might be going on and that Donald Trump might be a good man working on the side of humanity, but you'll never have heard me say with 100% conviction that it's a real thing, because I've never been 100% convinced. I've been veering towards that idea, but I've never fully come down on that side. And as the months have dragged on, I've been losing hope that there's any validity to it, because I'm just not seeing the results that I would expect to see if this thing was real. And so the can has kept getting kicked further and further down the road in terms of dates that we've been given for things that are supposed to be happening. And I will say that none of these dates, to be fair, have come from the Q drops, allegedly from Q himself or itself, whether it's a movement or an individual. So Q has never put dates on anything. It's the pundits that have been doing that, those that claim to have all the inside info. And so they've said, oh, you know, just wait till the election on the 3rd of November. Everything's going to change. It didn't. Oh, no, it's the 6th of January. Trust me, that event in D.C. is all going to change then. Mass arrests. It didn't. Then it was the inauguration. Then it was March the 4th. Then it was March the 20th. And that was my cutoff point. So I said to myself, really, I'm losing all hope and all faith. And if nothing has happened by the 20th of March or the 21st, the spring equinox, I'm throwing in my cards. I'm done. So here we are. And all along, you and I have traded messages, and you've said to me, come on, Mark, man, you know, how can you fall for this? It's an obvious psy-op. Don't want to see you getting misled. You know, come on, bro. And I've said to you, no, you know, wait, things are going to happen. Trust me. But I'm now at a stage where I'm happy to have you on the show to give your point of view and your stance on this whole thing, because, like I say, I'm pretty much done with it. That's a pretty long intro. It's a pretty long disclaimer, but I just wanted to make my position clear on it before we dive into this. So that having been said, where should we even start with this whole thing, man?
Well, you know, I mean, the way you started it off, I think is appropriate, right? And we have been in contact back and forth. And I don't think I ever said, come on, man. Like, but I know what you mean. You know, I was like, you know, I've taken a hard stance against this on my own show and in my own platforms, and anytime somebody has me on their show to discuss, because I feel, I mean, and we'll go through some of it today throughout the course of the podcast. I feel it's a psychological warfare. What's going on? I feel that it's a giant psy-op that was run on the American people, but it was only a branch of the psy-op. You know, I think it's a larger picture that we need to be looking at, and the genie's out of the bottle. That's the thing here. It's something that we're going to have to deal with from here on in. And you know, we've spoken about freedom many times in the past. You're an advocate for freedom. I'm an advocate for freedom. We want to be free. We want to be left alone. We want to be able to do what it is that we want to do, as long as it's not hurting anybody else, right?
That's right.
How can you be free when they've colonized your mind, right? They've colonized your mind, and it's, if you're not in chains, how do you know you're free? I mean, you think you're free is what I should say. When you're in chains, you know you're not free. you know you're a slave. You know, that's why hard slavery didn't work. That's why what Adolf Hitler tried to do didn't work, because it was obvious. You know, it was obvious slavery. You know, it didn't take much for people to get hip to, I don't want to be doing this. But when they colonize your mind, when they get into your mind and you think you're free, then that's the biggest operation, right? That's the biggest game. It's the biggest rap that they can give you. You're screwed, right? Because if you don't know that you're a slave, you can never be free. And when they colonize your mind, that's what they do. So I think everything has moved on in what we do and what we cover. I think we need to get away from the brick and mortar and start thinking about the psychological aspects of this. And we do get into MK Ultra and things of that nature, but they've stepped it up. Yeah. You know, they've stepped it up and they've manipulated us via the mind. And that's what I want to get into a little bit today with QAnon and things that accompany QAnon. We could talk about January 6th. We could talk about all the dates that have come and gone. And we can talk about Donald Trump and was he ever our guy? You know, was he ever out to defend us, as a lot of people still feel today? You know, we can talk about whether or not he won this election, you know, whether it was fraudulent or not. We could talk, take me wherever you want. I will give you my answers as best as possible. Sure. But I know that QAnon itself didn't start off as QAnon. There were several predecessors of the QAnon Psy-Op. There was FBI Anon. There was White House Anon. There was Pamphlet Anon. There was High-Level Insider Anon. You know, and they all operated from 4chan and 8chan. These were these social media sites with complete and total anonymity, right? And people would go there and post whatever they wanted, you know, and be completely absolved of anything, because in reality, you know, you don't know who's posting these things. You don't know who these people are. But all of these Anons popped up earlier, before QAnon, before they were rebranded. And now, in all actuality, FBI Anon was the one to point out that Hillary Clinton was going to be arrested. And I think, don't quote me, but I think they gave a date, and the date came and went, but it didn't seem to matter. People were going along with it anyway. And then they rebranded to QAnon, and QAnon somehow found itself out of a 8chan and a 4chan. It made its way to YouTube through several pundits. It made its way to Facebook, you know, and that's when it started growing and taking off. And that's why it was able to have a much larger reach than the other Anons. But it's not a new thing. So I saw those things come and go. Go ahead, sir.
What about this Russian operation dating back to the 1920s known as Operation Trust? Are you familiar with that?
I am not. Put me on.
Okay, so I've got an article here. It's titled, QAnon Bears Striking Resemblance to Bolshevik Psy-Op from 1920s known as Operation Trust. And it says, Operation Trust was a Bolshevik counterintelligence operation run from 1921 to 1926, aimed at neutralizing opposition by creating the false impression that a powerful group of military leaders had organized to stop the communists' takeover. So that's from about 100 years ago.
Right.
And a communist takeover then, not much has changed, as you say, same as it ever was. But yeah, this has been pointed out that many of the characteristics of the Q plan seem to have been lifted from this Bolshevik Psy-Op of 100 years ago. So there's another one to add to the list.
That's incredibly interesting, right? And
I'll send you the link to that.
Please do. Please do. But, you know, can I play some clips? Is that something I can do?
If you got them there.
I do have a few that I wanted to. I should have cleared this with you ahead of time, but I forgot. Full disclosure. There's a lot of other things. There's a lot of other things that we can trace QAnon to, right? And Hollywood is one of them, right? And I want you to listen to this trailer, right? Okay, so let's give a little bit of background, right? This is White Squall is the name of the movie, 1996 movie trailer with Jeff Bridges and Scott Wolf. Ridley Scott directed this movie, right? And we all know about the symbolism behind the Ridley Scott movies. I'm sure you've covered some here. I know
Sure.
Isaac Whitehouse has done it over there at Illuminati Watcher, and a lot of other people have done it. Anyway, we want to let me play this clip. You want to keep your ears open to what you're going to hear and how familiar it sounds. Here it goes.
Why the hell do it?
Bill's character, Mr. Preston, of which you are in desperately short supply.
They came from different places.
And this Ocean Academy isn't recognized as accredited.
It'll be a good thing, Dad.
They sailed for different reasons.
I don't want to be what I was when I left.
There you go.
Anonymous.
But there was only one way
We'll do it together.
I can't.
Climb!
to survive on his ship.
I will challenge them, and they will come together.
Become a team.
Where we go one, we go all.
Because where he was taking them
What are they doing?
So if you hear, a couple of things came from that movie. This is 1996, right? You heard Scott Wolf say, I don't want to be what I was when I left. And what was that? Anonymous, right? And what can you be on 4chan? Anonymous, right? And Q-anon stands for Q-anonymous, right? He didn't want to be anonymous. But more importantly, later on, you hear, where we go one, we go all. And that's the moniker, right, for the QAnon army, for the digital warriors, right? And I want to
the
talk
sign-off
about,
phrase, yeah.
Right.
Supposedly, that was an inscription on the bell on the boat of President John F. Kennedy. Supposedly, he had the inscription, where we go one, we go all. And, you know, Donald Trump has been kind of framed as a modern-day JFK within this narrative. And that phrase from Kennedy has kind of been adopted for this movement.
I don't know about that. I want to look into that, right, and see if that's a thing. But the JFK correlation to Donald Trump has been really exaggerated, right, in order to propel.
They described Obama as a modern-day Martin Luther King, so anything is possible.
Yeah. You know, so they did all that. But this is where, you know, the roots of some of this QAnon stuff comes from. It also, we can trace some of it back to Bill Cooper, right? Bill Cooper, author of Behold the Pale Horse, right? And of course, he did The Hour of the Time. He did the legendary Babylon. I forget the name of the broadcast that he put together. But Hour of the Time and Behold the Pale Horse is what he's known for, more than anything else.
Yeah.
And he claimed to have Q level security clearance. And you know, the funny part is, right, the Q level security clearance is supposed to be from the energy department. So I really don't understand what that would accomplish, right? But that's what QAnon was, right? It was a Q level security. That's why they call themselves Q. But you can trace this back to Bill Cooper. And what I'm getting at here is there was a company called Cambridge Analytica. Are you familiar with Cambridge?
Well, I've heard Neil Sanders' broadcasts, so I'm very familiar with Cambridge Analytica, yeah.
Right. And shouts to Neil, shouts to Neil Sanders. And I heard him here on your show break down at Cambridge Analytica, and talk about it. And what Cambridge Analytica did is they had 5,000 data points on every American citizen, right? And they were able to figure out what made Americans tick, right? And it was all through social media. We put it out there, right? So what they say is when something is free, you're the product. You're the product. So Facebook is free. Twitter is free. Instagram is free. TikTok is free. But you're putting your information out there. You are the product. Nothing is free. They're taking that information and doing God knows what with it. Well, Cambridge Analytica capitalized on things like this, and they were running tests and running ops throughout the world. Well, not just Cambridge, their parent company, the SCL Group, which was the director of it got with Steve Bannon, which is another guy I want to talk about. And the SCL Group was running ops on behalf of the British government all over the world, in Trinidad, in Northern Africa, in South America. And here in Virginia, actually, when they did that off. Well, let me get back, right? So SEL Group is the parent company. Steve Bannon decided that he wanted to hire this company for, in essence, culture creation, right? And he wanted to manipulate and create a culture war. He wanted to manipulate people by their minds and to have them vote in that manner, right? We wanted to change society. And he went over to a man called Alexander Nix, who is the director of the SEL Group. And they got together with another person called Chris Wiley, who wrote a book called Mindfuck that everybody should go read. He is a Cambridge Analytica whistleblower. And they all got together and they spoke about the possibilities. And Steve Bannon laid out what he wanted to accomplish. And they thought they could do something like this. So he got the Mercers involved, Bob Mercer and the Mercer's daughter. He got them involved, big money, far right Republicans, right, that were willing to contribute money to causes. And they had a whole presentation together. And a few hours later, the Mercers gave $20 million to Upstart to give the starting money for Cambridge Analytica, what became Cambridge Analytica, an offshoot of the SEL Group. It was supposed to be run out of Cambridge University, quote unquote. And that's where Donald Trump got his script, right? So Steve Bannon wanted Donald Trump to be the president of the United States. And the Mercers wanted Ted Cruz to be the president of the United States. Steve Bannon won, right? And through the 5,000 data points that they had gathered from Americans on the internet, they gave Donald Trump a script. They handed him a script of what to say, and they knew they would be appealing to a certain type of people. So what did they tell him to say? Lock her up. Hillary Clinton, lock her up. Hillary Clinton is key to this QAnon operation. Okay. And further than that. But so let's keep that in mind. So they lock her up, build a wall. This came out of Cambridge Analytica. Drain the swamp came out of Cambridge Analytica. These aren't things that Donald Trump just thought up.
Is there documentation to show
absolutely.
this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are several documentaries that have been done that are mainstream, but on top of that, Chris Wiley, who is the whistleblower, said that they came up with all these terms way before Donald Trump started saying them. And then when Donald Trump was brought in by Cambridge Analytica, when he hired them, they say, or whatever, but Bannon brought him in. And he started repeating a lot of this as Chris Wiley was gone from the organization at that point. And he was like, wait a minute, I remember that. I did that. I put together this script. And they did it from Americans. They got the information from social media. And in particular, I want to say that they targeted our community, meaning the alternative media. We were the ones that were more susceptible to buy into this work, right? Because of what we believed. We believed that Hillary Clinton should have been locked up, right? And we believe that because of what's been going on for a long time and what she's been doing. But in most recent times, Pizzagate was a thing, right? And we never really got any real resolution from Pizzagate.
It's a real thing.
It's something, but what is it exactly? We don't know. We don't know. We know that there was a lot of unanswered questions about the verbiage that was used, right? In some of those documents that were revealed, but we don't know what it was, right? Even beyond that, I want to talk about Wiener's laptop, and I want to talk about Hunter Biden's laptop, and how those things were used to push an agenda.
How they fizzled out. We heard a whole lot about Hunter Biden's laptop a few weeks ago.
Right.
What's happened with that? Where's that going? Why is that?
Well, there was nothing to it. That's the thing. I mean, and there was nothing to it in a way that, all right, there was something to it, but what they did was they took a shred of truth and threw tons of propaganda around it that wasn't real, or that they couldn't prove. Pedophilia, doing a disadvantage, putting real research on pedophilia, people that really want to end this, putting them at a disadvantage, you know, with QAnon research that leads absolutely nowhere. We're just accusing, pointing back and forth, right? And so what I remember InfoWars at the height of this, and this was all done in an effort to get Donald Trump back in office, right? They had late October and November when this was popping off, August, they had a headline. Donald Trump has Hunter Biden's laptop. This was a headline. You know, he has all the information and he's going to drop everything he knows about the pedophilia, everything. It's coming. Never came because they never had anything.
The best is yet to come, apparently.
You know, I'm not saying that Hunter Biden is a good dude, right? But was he doing what we were accusing him of doing in our community? Nah, he probably wasn't, and we don't have any proof of it. That's the thing. I know a lot of people aren't going to want to hear that, but it's the truth, right? We go back. We just don't have the proof of it.
What about this Anthony Weiner laptop?
What's up? Come on.
Supposedly contains footage of Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin slicing off a baby's face. I mean,
right.
New York City police officers, 30 years on the job, hardened homicide detectives were throwing up at the horror of this thing. Now, if that was real, why the hell has nothing been done about it?
Well, because it's not real. The only thing that we have to source back to, and if anybody has anything different, please let me know. Okay. But the only thing we have to source back to is a quote from Eric Prince, head of Blackwater, you know, very, very involved deep stater. And he was the one who made reference to this, that there were things on that laptop that were incredible and that it made cops throw up, and it was incredible to watch. Never been proven. It's all been hearsay. It's all been thrown out there, propaganda for people that wanted to believe. And we wanted to believe these things. Sure. Maybe not because we thought they were a good thing, but we wanted to believe it because we wanted to lock these people up and get them going. I mean, they'd done so many horrible things. What's the next step? Could she dismember a baby? Maybe. I believe it, right? Let's go for it. Yeah, he probably did that. We don't have any proof. She probably did that. There's no proof of this. This is
the whole problem with the Q-Trump narrative. If there really were a plan, it would have to be covert. It would have to fly under the radar so as not to alert the enemy as to what your next move is going to be. And this is what we hear. This is why all the comms are coded. This is why everything is cryptic. This is why nothing's clear cut in black and white. And so it's all down to interpretation. And you've got all these pundits saying, what was meant by that symbol was this, and the reason this was done in this location is this. But there's never any proof. There's never any documentation. And as researchers, this is what we require. This is a point that I've made many times. Right. I'm a professional researcher. I've put out books. If I'd put out my musical truth books with some of the claims I've made in them without being able to back them up with citations to show where I got this information from, people would be accusing me of pulling this stuff out of my arse and being a wild fantasist. And yet with this whole thing, you don't have those citations. There are no documents. There are no video. There is no video evidence. There's no witness statements. There's no testimonies. It's all left to trust and faith, and you're told to trust the plan. Yeah. But, you know, how much longer are you supposed to trust it when there's nothing verifiable to hang anything on? That's the big problem with it.
No, absolutely, man. And this is the situation as a whole here. Steve Bannon, who I believe is the mastermind of all these things, and I believe is intimately involved with QAnon, even though he said he hasn't been. He was pardoned by Donald Trump. Steve Bannon was working at a Japanese video game company earlier on in his life during Gamergate. I don't know if you remember Gamergate, but he saw what was going on 4chan. You know, and he saw, because this culture, this anonymous online culture, you can trace it back to Japan, you know, and it came over here in the form of the chans, right? The 4chan and the 8chan after. And Steve Bannon caught wind of this. He caught wind of how people could be manipulated online. He's a very smart guy, Steve Bannon. And that's why, through the example of what happened in Gamergate, and then came Pizzagate after it, you know, that's when he decided to do something because he wants to create a culture war. He wanted to manipulate people by their minds. Steve Bannon is also an occultist, by the way. He's very into the occult. He's into mysticism. He's read Madame Blavatsky, admittedly. Rene Guénon is another one who was an occultist that he looks up to. And chaos. He's into, chaos magic. There's another guy. Let me get his name for you. I have it written down here. Mencius Malbag is the name. Mencius Malbag is the name of this guy that Steve Bannon looked up to, or looks up to. And this is one of the quotes by this guy. Listen to this. Nonsense is a more effective organizing tool than the truth. Out of chaos will come order. Out of chaos will come order. How does that sound to you? We've heard this many, 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 many times.
Sounds like something from Aleister Crowley.
Right? Hey, Crowley and all this other stuff, right? Throughout the alternative media, you've heard this over and over and over and over again. Right? Out of chaos will come order. And this is what they sought to accomplish with a QAnon, with a Cambridge Analytica, is divide and conquer. Divide, chaos, and the new order will emerge from that chaos, right? The Great Reset. We're looking at it, staring at it in the face. It's happening right now, right? We've crossed that door, right? We've crossed the Rubicon. It's time to face it, right? It's here. We're here. The New World Order is here, right? If it wasn't here before, it's definitely here now. So this is what Steve Bannon was looking to accomplish. And another very key figure in this whole thing that links QAnon to Cambridge Analytica is Michael Flynn. And I'm sure you've heard that name, the general, Michael Flynn.
Sure.
Right?
A hero of the movement.
Exactly. The digital warriors, right? And that came from one of his speeches, right? He says, we need digital warriors to defend the Constitution. So people took that and started going online, and they declared, they were taking the oath online to the Constitution, to the United States, being digital warriors. And Michael Flynn signed many books. He used the moniker, where we go one, we go all, many, many, many times. Right. Actually making a ton of money, off of QAnon. But dig a little bit deeper on the guy. And he was employed by Cambridge Analytica. He was paid by the SCL group. Here goes, and what do? Mind warfare, mental manipulation, to change cultures, to change minds, to get a desired outcome, and make the people believe that they did it. Brexit was Cambridge Analytica was instrumental in Brexit. Cambridge Analytica was instrumental in Bolsonaro in Brazil getting into office. And of course, Donald Trump here in the United States. They're messing with our minds. And Michael Flynn is going out there, right? And this dude should have been ashamed of himself, man. Taking the oath online with his entire family on YouTube. You can still find the clip somewhere. Where we go one, we go all, we're digital warriors, all this other stuff. Have you heard him lately? If you haven't, no, I have that too. I got this guy talking. See, the thing is, and I want to talk post-election, because after the election, a lot of things changed. A lot of things. But let me play Michael Flynn for you real quick. And this is the guy that's been prominently pushing the plan and prominently pushing QAnon, saying where we go one, we go all, and paid by Cambridge Analytica. Listen to this.
I see that people say that you are a supporter of QAnon.
What is that?
It's an online conspiracy.
Is that the Blue Anon thing?
No, QAnon.
What do you think it is?
I don't know. I see a lot of people supporting it. Some of the stuff they believe in. Do you support it or not?
Do I support what?
QAnon.
What is it?
The online movement.
And what does it do? What does it stand for?
I don't know. I've read that you support it.
Where'd you read that? In True, what's the name of your outfit? True what?
The Tulsa World.
Tulsa World. So did you write about it?
Well, I'm asking you if you support it.
I mean, I have to know what it is.
You don't know what it is?
I mean, I know I've heard about it, but what is it? What does it represent?
Openly denying QAnon now. He'll go back and forth, but he says there is no plan now. So what the hell was this all about?
Supporters would say he has to deny it. He can't be heard to confirm it.
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
just
You're
saying
right,
what
you're
they
right.
would say.
Yeah. You're right. We can keep rationalizing this and keep kicking the can down the road. I'll go back to, I want to believe. I want to believe that the white hats are going to take over and bring down the establishment, bring down the elite. I want to believe that all my debts will be erased. I want to believe that all diseases will be cured. And I want to believe that Donald Trump is the savior of the people because it's hope.
Well, this is it. That's exactly what it is. People are so in need of hope after what we've endured these past few months. And you've heard the phrase hopium, which has been put around a lot. People are so in need of something to hang their hopes on that they will let rational thought that would normally be there get kicked to the side because they need that hopium. They're addicted to something to believe that things are going to get better. And I know what that's like. I've been guilty of that myself. I've been so in need of some hope through all the darkness and devastation and doom and gloom that I've had to wade through the last year, as we all have. So they've really capitalized on that. We live in a world of duality, and we think for evil to exist, it has to be balanced out with good. It stands to reason. There's got to be forces of good in creation. Is it really so unreasonable to assume that forces for good exist out there, which are dedicated to fighting evil and darkness and bringing it down? That's why I think this plan has had some credibility in people's minds, because they've just wanted to believe that there's forces of good out there and it's not all evil, it's not all darkness that has the place to itself.
No, I understand that, right? I understand where people come from with it to a certain degree. I would look at it like this, if all of this were true, couldn't they find somebody better than Donald Trump who has been morally bankrupt for forever? I live in New York. I've grown up with Donald Trump and I've seen him operate here. And he's not a good guy. He's just not. He's very charismatic. Right. Incredibly charismatic. He can sell a message, better than just about anyone I don't know, on level with a Barack Obama, on level with somebody like a Dwayne Johnson that can hold the attention of people in the palm of their hands. That's what Donald Trump can do. Beyond that, what has he really done? Did anybody get locked up here? No. And we can keep justifying it. We can keep saying, well, it's going to happen on a different date. Well, we don't know, we're using the whole, when George Bush Sr. died, it was a tribunal, and they held him guilty and they executed him. Not to mention that he was super old and he was dying anyway. But you ignore that, right? Or who was the other guy?
John McCain. We're told. Both these guys were old. Old guys die.
John McCain had cancer several times, right?
Right.
But according to the QAnon narrative, he was taken and held in an underground tribunal, and he was decapitated or something or other.
See, this is the big problem with all this. Everything that Trump is supposed to have done was left until the last year of his first term. So if it was the real deal, why didn't he start cleaning house immediately? And I know there's going to be researchers that say, well, he did. From the minute he got into office in January 2017, he started, he went around the world and he got all these other leaders to come on side with him. And then he started making arrests, and all these people you see on TV are not the real people. They're doubles because the real ones have been executed. Again, we have no proof of that. It's only speculation. It's only people's conjecture. But if this plan was real, why would you risk running out of time with it by leaving it all to the last year? Exactly. Would you not want to make those arrests from day one? And now, the whole thing just seems to have been fucked up, because we're told that the plan was for him to get a second term. And in the second term, you'd really start to see some results. That's when it will become apparent what he's been doing all along, and there'll be no denying it. But the problem is that went a bit wrong, didn't it? Because he didn't get his second term. So where does that leave us? Where does that leave the plan?
Well, we first need to talk about why he didn't get his second term, because that's a point of argument within our community and within most of the world at this point, because a lot of people believe that there was massive election fraud and Donald Trump actually won this election. I went out and it really doesn't take a genius to figure out. I'm not tooting my own horn here, but I said that Joe Biden was going to win this election. I caught a lot of crap for it.
You told me that, and I was like, no, I wasn't having it. I was like, there's no way. There is no way Joe Biden is going to be president. I mean, that's not Joe Biden. We'll get onto that. That ain't Joe Biden.
That's
whatever,
not Joe.
whatever that thing is, it's not the original Joe Biden. But we'll get onto that. But no, I was not having it. I was not having it. I thought there's no way he's going to be president. But you were right.
It's because of where I live and what I see. It's not because of anything else. It's not because I'm special in any type of way. It's not because I have any type of different insight than anything. I'm just exposed to things that some people aren't, and this is what's happened in our community. We've put ourselves in a bubble, an information bubble, right? It's an echo chamber. And we use the same things and we say the same things and we put out the same information, and that information bounces off the bubble that we're in and comes right back to us. And we believe it. There's nothing else outside that bubble. We've managed to become what we've been ridiculing for years and years and years. We are that now. We're in this bubble. So if you were a part of the alternative media, odds are, and there were a lot of people that didn't side with this argument. Let me put that out there. But a lot of people just thought that it was a hands down accepted fact that Donald Trump was going to win this election. That's not what I saw out here in New York. That's not what I saw in Pennsylvania. That's not what I saw when I reached out to people in Georgia. That's not what I saw. I saw something very different. And I would point out that the term Trump derangement syndrome is a thing. Oh, you got Trump derangement syndrome. You got Trump derangement syndrome for saying what you're saying. So I want to say that, when I'm pointing out that there's something wrong with something, that doesn't mean I have derangement syndrome because of it. Like if there's a spoiled piece of meat in the refrigerator and I'm like saying, hey, something's wrong with this piece of meat, that doesn't mean I have meat derangement syndrome. I'm just saying there's something wrong with this. So it's the same way with Donald Trump. It's not Trump. Well, some people did have actually some type of, trigger every time Trump came about. He is that type of figure. In my opinion, I think that's why he was used for something like this. The most divisive figure I've seen in my lifetime.
Why do you think he was savaged by the mainstream media so mercilessly? He never got any good press.
I think he did get some good press, right? By sites like Newsmax and OAN and to a degree Fox News. But he was savaged by everyone. Mainly by the left, right? By CNN and MSNBC, because that's what they're supposed to do, right? They're supposed to attack the right. And Donald Trump is a dick. So he gives people ammunition, right? And that's where this stemmed from. This wasn't a race on policy. This was a race of Donald Trump versus Donald Trump. Joe Biden did not factor into this equation. And this is what people say when it comes to the election. They start saying, okay, I start looking at the rallies and Donald Trump has, 30, 50,000 people at every rally. And Joe Biden has like 10 people in cars and they're socially distanced and nobody cares, right? Good observation. But what you're not understanding, in my opinion, is that Joe Biden had nothing to do with this. It's all Donald Trump versus Donald Trump. It's people that love Donald Trump versus people that hate Donald Trump.
You're saying nobody voted for Joe Biden because they wanted Joe Biden. They voted for him because he wasn't Trump, and he was the only way to get Trump out. So do you feel that election result was accurate?
Yes, I feel like was there election fraud to some degree? Yes, there was. There always is. Always. We can always. So if there was for Joe Biden, there was for Donald Trump in 2016. There was for Barack Obama before that. You're always going to find a dead person that voted something like that. That's not good. We should look into that. We should do something about it. But yes, Joe Biden won the election hands down. And it's because, and I'll go back to this, it's because of the Trump derangement syndrome. You can't make an argument that all these people hate Donald Trump and they have Trump derangement syndrome, but then say Trump is going to win by a landslide. You can't make that argument. It doesn't make sense. There's half of the country that hated this guy to the point where they got up and voted. It was manipulation, emotional and mental manipulation to reinvest everybody into the left-right paradigm, to make them think that they had a choice. And it was emotional to the point that Chris Wiley says this in the book Mindfuck, that part of the Cambridge Analytica mental manipulation, psychological warfare was to have supporters of a QAnon or of a Donald Trump internalize their support, internalize their beliefs, and internalize Donald Trump. So if I insult Donald Trump, if I say something about Donald Trump, Trump supporters are going to take it as I'm insulting them. And that's part of the work. It's a genius level psychological operation.
See, I think this is the cruelest Psy-Op that's ever been played.
It's incredible, bro.
Yeah, but it's cruel, it's heartless. I can't believe there are individuals that turn up for work every day and take a paycheck for devising these kind of psychological manipulations. It's psychological torture. All those people that had hope invested in this man and in things working out and in the evil control system being taken down and all these pedophiles and child torturers facing justice. Mm-hmm. You know, how can you instill that hope in people knowing that it's a psyop, knowing that you're going to pull that all away from them at some point and they're going to be left crushed and devastated and be okay with that? That is just the depths to which humanity can sink in my book. And also a question I have is, what is going to happen when all these American patriots who have been Trump supporters finally twig that they've been had, finally twig that never mind nothing can stop what is coming, it's more the case that nothing is coming. When they finally realize that they've been played like a violin with this whole thing,
damn, man,
what's going to happen? Because patriots have guns. Can't help noticing. Patriots tend to have a cabinet full of firearms. There's going to come a point where they have to acknowledge that Trump has gone. He's not coming back. And they've been left out in the cold. That's not going to be a great time when the penny finally drops, if that's what we're dealing with here.
Right. I would say to that, I don't think it's going to happen. I think the attention span of us here in America, including myself, is very, very short. We forget very easily. I think this movement dies with Trump because I don't think they can get anyone else as charismatic as, what a personality, right? You got to give it to him at the very least. I don't think they can get anybody to be able to garnish as much support as Donald Trump was able to do. So I think the movement dies with Trump. I could be very wrong.
Do you think he's gone? Do you think he's just exited the scene and we're going to see no
he'll
more?
Be around. He'll be around. The whole goal was to start the Trump News Network. That might happen, right? And that'll be the real news, right? So if that happens, we got a problem because it's not fake news. It's real news, and people will believe it as such without doing research. And we got problems coming down the pike if that's where it's going. But he also says he's going to run again. I believe if he runs again, he will lose again. And I believe the Republican Party may not even want him to run again at this point with the irreparable damage that it's done to that party. It's a Trump party now. It's not a Republican Party anymore. Trump was a lifelong Democrat, by the way. Just to put that out there, so he was never a conservative. He didn't rule conservatively. So I really don't understand, besides the mind operation, of course, I really don't understand why people would go to him. But, he would say things that appeal to us in the alternative media. Like, he would call out the media. He would call out the mainstream and put them on blast. But the thing is, a couple of times it's like, all right, he's doing that. Wow, he's really doing it. But then he was doing it to avoid questions. But we still said, yeah, he's giving it to the alternative media. I mean, to the mainstream. He's giving it to CNN. He's giving it to Don Lemon. But he was doing it to avoid questions. He wasn't doing it because of anything else. I don't want that. I want somebody who's going to answer legitly and give it to the mainstream media for real, not on the surface. And I believe that's what Trump was doing. But it was enough to garnish support. But circling back to patriots, That's another term that was used by Cambridge Analytica to bring people in. They would set up fake Twitter pages, Patriot, whatever. Think of something, Patriot 321, and they would start putting out messages that would come from the research that they had done, and they would bring people into the web, and then they would set up a meet and greet. You know how we do in the alternative media? Sometimes we have meetups, right? Like a flat earth meetup or a cryptid meetup. Well, they would have a Patriot meetup. But the thing is, the person that was running the Patriot meetup was operative from Cambridge Analytica. And they would inject these ideas in there. They would promote a QAnon style operation. They would push it and say, hey, this is the deal. They wouldn't deny it. They would harness. They would nurture it, is what I was trying to say, to have it and see it grow. This is admitted that this is what they did. They conned us. It's okay. It's okay to admit that we were conned. I was conned. I've been conned for a long time. But at one point I was like, you know what? This isn't a thing. This isn't right. I was never down with QAnon. I was never down with Donald Trump. But I was never down with them because of where I came from and what I had seen. Not necessarily because I was any better than anyone. I was just fortunate enough to be in a position. That's it. Yeah. This is how deep this operation goes. So Patriot is a trigger word for the Cambridge Analytica mind operation. And it led to January 6th, right? And we could talk about January 6th all day long. And in the alternative media, there's a lot of different theories. I believe that was the crowning moment of the LARP that was QAnon, right? I believe that was the end of the game. You know what happens in a role-playing game, right? You have to storm the castle at the end of it when you get to the final board. And that's what QAnon was. It was a live-action role-playing game. A mind operation that led people to believe that they were a part of something bigger, that they were a part of the revolution. I don't know if you saw the footage of this woman that was that stormed the Capitol and that she got pepper sprayed or something. And she was like, why did they do this to me, man? And I was like, well, maybe because you went into the Capitol building. And she goes, oh, man. The guy asked her, why would you do that? And she's like, we're starting a revolution, man. She says, we're doing a revolution. They really believe that they were starting a revolution. A lot of those people, they say they were actors and all of this stuff, man. A lot of those people got there on their own accord. What they were able to do, and I'll go back to the beginning of the podcast, is colonize the mind. Once they've colonized the mind, people act in a way that seems independent of everything else. That they are taking this action. In reality, it comes from the mind operation, but they feel they're taking this action. They went to the Capitol building on orders of Donald Trump, right? They're like, yo, come here, come here on the 6th. Nothing was going to happen. Mike Pence did not have the power to overturn the election. It was a ceremonial thing. It was out there, but people didn't want to believe that. They wanted to believe that Mike Pence somehow could overturn the election that day. And all these people gathered outside, and when they didn't get what they want, they stormed the Capitol. Were these people let in? Some of them? Absolutely. I mean, there's video footage of it, right? But all these people, QAnon shaman, all these people, yeah, he has an IMDb page. Yeah, he was an actor. Okay. He believed in QAnon. Okay. Now he's sitting in jail. There are real world consequences to this. That's why this is so dangerous.
They didn't send in provocateurs to stir
there were probably
trouble.
Absolutely. I believe that there might have been provocateurs. Absolutely. The work is a complex one, but there's a lot of people there that were susceptible to the provocateurs. If you and I were out there, Mark, right? And a provocateur was like, yeah, come on, let's go storm the Capitol. I'd probably be like, yeah, you go ahead. I'll stay right here and see what's going on, right? But there were a lot of people that were so invested, so colonized. Their minds were so colonized, and they really thought that, and these are good people. These are good people that thought they were doing the right thing. They really thought they were going to storm the Capitol that day and take back their country. It's a narrative that was pushed by the mainstream media. In some ways, it was pushed by the alternative media in a lot of ways, and it was pushed by the elite, the mind control operators, the Mercers. and that's why we found ourselves in the position that we did that day. And what did that lead to? That led to Joe Biden having all the power in the world to do whatever it is he wants to do and blame it on Donald Trump, justify it on what went down that day. That's what it leads to. We have a cage around the Capitol building. I have some footage, Mark. I'll send it to you because I'm doing a documentary. There's a cage around the entire Capitol building. It looks like WWE Hell in a Cell. And they're thinking about leaving it that way, right? That they're going to have some retractable, some cage that goes underground and then comes back up when needed. And they're justifying this on the QAnon operation and how dangerous QAnon people are. This is the problem. Now we're all lumped in. 9/11 truth is lumped in with QAnon. JFK assassination is lumped in with QAnon. Any legit conspiracy research that is done is lumped in with QAnon, discrediting us altogether. It's so genius because it discredited us. It divided us. It divided our community, which was very united. It divided us. But not only did it divide us, it divided the nation. And it divided the world in a large sense. But on top of that, it united the nation under the left or right paradigm. You're either a Democrat or you're a Republican, right? And it got people to believe that the deep state were the Democrats because clearly they drink blood and sacrifice little kids. We have no evidence of that, but we believed it. Adrenochrome, all this stuff, nothing, no evidence of any of this, but we believe it. Madonna's under house arrest. Tom Hanks, you name it, Ellen DeGeneres, Oprah Winfrey, all these people are living their lives, millionaires, while we're over here thinking that they're suffering. They're not. They're doing just fine.
I want to run through a few red flags and anomalies with you just shortly. I'll go through this list I've got here. But first off, just hearing you talk about Cambridge Analytica, the amount of times they've come up in this conversation, makes me realize the degree to which all these psychological operations seem to have been masterminded from this wretched land in which I find myself, this wretched, God-forsaken place that they have the audacity to call Great Britain and the United Kingdom. Right. So you got Cambridge Analytica coming out of Cambridge University, and then you've got groups such as the Tavistock Institute the Behavioral Insights Team and SAGE that's been devising this whole COVID scam on behalf of the British government. So you got the whole Q thing, which seemingly from what you're saying was masterminded from Cambridge. And then I personally think the whole COVID scamdemic was masterminded from London, the belly of the beast, and exported out to the rest of the world in line with the Chinese-style communism that has been wanting to be achieved through this New World Order Great Reset master plan. But it all seems to be coming from this terrible place in which I and about 65 million other poor souls find ourselves, which is a pretty devastating revelation.
I think your country's great. I think you have an incredible
You don't live here, brother.
Well, you're right.
You've got a perspective on things as a New Yorker living in the Bronx.
Absolutely.
And that's why, you tell me that you've got a perspective on Trump because, he's from New York and you've lived there all your life. I've got a perspective on things from having lived all my life in Britain. And I used to think this was the greatest country in the world because we're trained to think of it that way. And that's what we're taught at school. And that's what my parents used to tell me. But I beg to differ now. It's probably one of the worst places in the world to live in terms of how rampant the mind control is.
Well, allow me to rephrase. I think the people of Britain are great.
Right.
Incredible people, incredible culture. Right. I want to get over there one day so bad. Right. We are great as a people. All the people of Earth have something to offer. Whether our lands aren't the best to live at the moment, it's not because of the people. It's because of these tyrannical governments that are making decisions on our behalf. We have to separate ourselves from this, right?
Right.
But the people, the soul, the spirit of the people is marvelous, right? And I look at it in awe and really look up to it, right? What the British people are all about.
But then again, so many of them have allowed themselves to be so easily conned with all the propaganda and all the fear that's been put out there with this COVID thing. I hear this complaint from everyone. I have people from Canada saying, what is it with Canadians, man? They're just so easily manipulated. And then somebody from Australia will say, oh, Australians are the worst in the world. They're such sheep. They're so easily mind controlled. And that's how I feel about British people. I think it's probably not much different from any country, you know.
It's people. It's not British people. It's not Australian people. It's not Canadians.
The devils that are presiding over these narratives understand how to manipulate the human psyche.
Yes, they do.
And that is the same whatever country somebody may be in. And they've done a great job of it, but I feel they've done a particularly good job of it in Britain. But then I would probably say that because I have to live here and see all these morons and golems and goons.
Well, you know, to that. No, I'll take your point. To that, you know, the West has been manipulated in a way that has taken us further and further away from what it means to be human. Right? The West lives a very different life, a very artificial life. So maybe that's why we're more susceptible to these types of works. But I would say when we look at people and say, damn, how could they be so stupid to believe X, Y, and Z? Let's look at ourselves and say, damn, what did I believe? You know, what have I been caught up in? And try to sympathize and relate to their position. And that way we can maybe have a productive conversation about what's going on. And maybe we get to plant some seeds, right? Rather than tell them, damn, how stupid can you be? You know, or damn, I can't believe you got caught up in thinking that wearing 5 masks is going to help you, right? We got caught up, you know, I got caught up in thinking Pizzagate was a thing. It's not. You know, tons of people got caught up in thinking Wayfair is a thing. Wayfair is provable nonsense. Provable nonsense. And a lot of people got caught up in QAnon. You know, and this is something that has proven itself out with time. If I would have came on 6 months ago, a lot of people would have just said it's pure bullshit. And a lot of people are probably going to say that now. But the thing is, I have time on my side and I have history on my side, and nothing has happened. And it's not going to.
We've got a year of unfulfilled promises now.
Right. Oh, more than that, man. It's been since 2017 when Q came on the scene. It's kicking the can down the road, moving the goalpost again and again. And people want to believe. So I don't blame people, right? Like if people, you know, believe in the system, I don't, they're taught to believe this. There's something different about us that we've somehow said, nah, we shouldn't subscribe to this. You know, but they're taught to believe this. We have to reach out, not condemn. We have to try to convert. Right. But we have to do it in a respectful manner. And I'm still trying to learn how to do that. Right. And do it in a way that is respectful to them, to their ideas. And it's relatable, because we're all in the same boat at the end of the day. While we may believe in different things and we may fall for different scams, and we may look at other scams and say, wow, that's complete bullshit. I don't understand how somebody fell for that. We're all falling for something.
This is why I think so many people were prepared to accept that this Q plan might be real. I'm talking about truthers here, because the alternative to there being this white hat alliance of good guys that are going to bring down the cabal and expose all this evil is that we, the people, have to do this for ourselves.
Right.
And to many people, that's a horrifying prospect. You look around you at the way people are behaving and you think, my God, we are on our own here. The only way this evil is going to get put down is if we ourselves do it. And yet look at the way these people are behaving. Look at the mind control they're under. Look at the degraded base levels of consciousness that they're operating from. It's a horrifying thing to have to think that. Now, there is some pushback happening, and I've seen a few things that have encouraged me. Mm-hmm. There was a massive protest event in London at the weekend, which I decided not to go to because I thought it was going to be a trap or a setup. But the numbers that turned out really surprised me. It was absolutely colossal. And there's another one in a couple of weeks, which I will be going to. Then you've got these legal cases. There's various ones popping up. There's Rainer Fulmich, this German American lawyer who's bringing prosecution against the German government and various other people involved in the COVID scam. And there's a few other things like this. So I'm seeing a few encouraging signs that maybe we, the people, can do this. It might take a very long time, but it's not hard to see how the idea of somebody else doing all this for us would have been attractive. And I think that's what gave this whole Q narrative such a lot of traction. It's very attractive to think that somebody else has got this.
Right, man. And the fact of the matter is they don't. It's us. We have to do it. If
That's
there's
right.
going to be any type of change, we have to do it.
It's always been that way.
Right. It's always been that way, and it will always be that way. We have to do it. We have to hold ourselves accountable to be able to move forward and make the change that we want. Yep. We can't rely on the elite to do it for us. Okay. They're going to mold the world the way they see fit. Steve Bannon thinks he's doing a good thing. He's molding the world in the way that he wants to mold it. Everybody that's running, because Cambridge Analytica is not a thing anymore. That company's no more, supposedly. But there are so many different companies that have hatched up after that with the same model. They know the tricks. They know the trade. And the genie's out of the bottle. How do we put it back? I don't know. Right? But we need to realize that these people, they'll stop at nothing, and they're evil geniuses, man. They know what they're doing, and they're going to mold the world the way they see fit. It is up to us to mold the world the way we see fit. And we need to do it peacefully. Because a war we're not going to win, a physical hot war, good luck. We have to do it peacefully, and we have to do it by example. That's the way we invoke real change. Hope is not dead. It will never be dead as long as we are alive, because hope lies with us, right? We can't put our hope on external sources. We can't put our hope on the government. We can't put our hope on elitists. We can't put our hope on Donald Trump or a QAnon that nobody even knows who he or she or they are. We can't put our hope. We can't do it. Hope lies with us.
That's right.
And as long as you have that hope, there's a way through. That's the way to look at it.
And I think the days of hot wars where you've got weapons, machine guns, tanks rolling down the street, they're pretty much done. They don't even need to do it that way anymore, because now it's psychological weaponry.
I think you're 100%. And that is what I was trying to convey, what I've been trying to convey this entire time.
Sure.
It's
InfoWars, to use that phrase, to borrow that from Alex Jones. I'm no Alex Jones fan, but it's InfoWars.
Right, I got you. Right. It's a mind war. The mind, it's a war. There's a war on for your mind. To quote InfoWars, it's a mind war. That's what it is now. Look, they shut down the world. How many people had to pick up guns to do that? Here in the alternative media, we thought it was going to be a hard martial law. Remember, that's what everybody thought. I thought that. Look what happened. Not a gun, not one gun. They got into your mind. Into your mind.
Yep.
That's the biggest weapon. We got to keep them out of our minds, right? And then we have to realize that they're in our minds right now. So the first step to fixing something is realizing that you have a problem. So let's realize that we have a problem here. It's not fear-mongering. We just have to face that we have a problem and deal with it accordingly. I still want to talk about a couple of things that led up after the election. So don't let me forget that, because they're key things that I want to talk about. But
sure.
Go ahead, continue.
Well, let's do that shortly. I just want to run through this list of, red flags and unexplained anomalies. And I want to get your thoughts on these once I've gone through them. So I always had a few problems with Donald Trump, even when I was prepared to entertain the idea of this Q plan, pretty much all through last year and into this year. There were a few things that bothered me. So Donald Trump was bailed out financially by the Rothschilds in the early 90s when he almost went bankrupt. Right. Right. So I don't know how you reconcile that with him taking over the Federal Reserve, which was Rothschild controlled, and absorbing that into the US Treasury. Right. Then you've got his son-in-law is Jared Kushner, who is a rabid Zionist and a lifelong friend of Benjamin Netanyahu. So that's a bit of a problem. Trump has been pictured visiting the Wailing Wall with his skull cap on. So he's, genuflecting to the Zionists in the way that all previous presidents did. Trump is very keen on flashing up certain hand signs. He does the so-called 666 hand sign. He's done the Masonic pyramid sign. He's done the triangle of manifestation, these occult hand signals. There are many old pictures of him hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein,
Right.
Ghislaine Maxwell, Hillary Clinton in times past. Genealogists claim that he's linked ancestrally to Hillary Clinton, that they are in fact, distant cousins many times removed. He's been pushing the vaccine. People say it's code and he means other things when he says it, but he's been encouraging Americans to take the vaccine. So that's a few problems I've got there. But I want to throw these into the mix as well. And as I say, I'll get your thoughts at the end of it. There's a few other anomalies and discrepancies as well, which throw a spanner in the works. First of all, as we mentioned earlier, that ain't Joe Biden. Whoever that demented old pedophile is, it's not the original Joe Biden. Just compare the way this goon looks with old photographs of Joe Biden. Now, it seems to me that they inserted this individual, whoever it is, during the Obama presidency to get people used to how he looked. So it was presumably always the plan to put him out as the presidential candidate, in years to come.
Right.
But they wanted people familiar with the way he looked, but still not Joe Biden. The inauguration ceremony was pre-recorded, and what we saw was a splicing together of various images rather than a live broadcast. So what's going on there? That was not Hillary at the inauguration, walking in there with Bill Clinton. Too short. Very convenient that a mask obscured half the face as well, but way too short to be Hillary. And I've seen many Hillary doubles used over the months. And when you look at photographs of what is claimed to be Hillary Clinton, they're not all her. There's actors being used there. And you could make that claim with lots of other famous people as well. A lot of celebrities and politicians do appear to have been wearing ankle tags of the type you get when you're placed under house arrest. And many photographs show celebrities with these moon boots on, these surgical boots that you wear when you've broken your ankle or whatever. And people have said that's to conceal the ankle tags. But either way, there's many pictures where you can see what appear to be these ankle tags. Okay. The other week, they used a CGI rendering of the Queen when she's talking about the vaccine and everyone should go out and get it. That was CGI. I'm no expert in this, but even I could see it. The facial structure was wrong. The voice was wrong. The mannerisms were wrong. It wasn't her. They have been using a fake Prince Charles. There's been an actor that's been wheeled out to do interviews. It's plain to see. So where's the real Prince Charles? Why the need to use a double? Same thing with Prince Harry. There's been photoshopped pictures of the Queen and Prince Philip, blatantly photoshopped. Why would you need to do that if the Queen is around, Prince Charles is around, and everything is good? So there's a few anomalies there. It's a long list, but let me get your thoughts on the things that I mentioned there.
Yeah, that was a lot. You hit me with a lot.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
I'd like to go through each and every one of them. I just don't remember all of them. But what
I can recap one by one if you like.
Fine. Let's do that. But
okay, the bailing out by the Rothschilds of Trump in the 90s.
Well, they bailed him out, right? That's admitted. It was Wilbur Ross that did it. They bailed him out. They own him. He's owned by a lot of people. He did a lot of dealings with the mob out here in New York for a long, long time. You had to, in order to build. Right, because the mob owned a lot of these companies that would supply, the materials and in order to do these things. So he had to do it. Roy Cohn, who was Donald Trump's mentor, had a lot of connections because he defended some of these people. So he was able. I forget exactly what happened, but there was a strike here, and no one was getting serviced as far as building, but Donald Trump was, and that was through Roy Cohn, right? So yeah, he got bailed out by the Rothschilds. It shouldn't surprise anyone. He got bailed out by them. He's owned. He's an owned person. What he was in debt, $450 million, I think, or was it billion? I don't remember. But who does he owe that money to? Whoever he owes that money to runs him by default, and you don't have to look too far to figure that out, because if you owe somebody a substantial amount of money, they have a lot of say over your life. So yeah, there you go.
Right.
What's next?
Okay. So his son-in-law is Jared Kushner, who is, a Zionist. Trump has been pictured at the Wailing Wall, just like all other presidents, hanging out with Zionists and such. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. Well, Trump is probably one of the most pro-Israel presidents ever. And you have to be that to get into the White House for some reason. It's a very touchy subject, the Israel subject. But most presidents, some less than others, but still are all pro-Israel. You're not going to find a lot of them that are anti-Israel. Trump is no different. You know, and he moved the Capitol over there. He did a lot of things that were very, very pro-Israel. You know, he did all of these quote unquote peace agreements with a lot of these nations, you know, around the Middle East. And who came out winning in all of those? Israel, all the time. And what the hell happened to Palestine? Everybody seems to forget. Like, you know, I thought it was supposed to be a peace deal with Palestine. They weren't even allowed at the table. Okay, all of this was, and how do you deal peace with war? All right, because what he did was to broker some of these deals in the Middle East was provide weapons, you know, choppers and some military grade airplanes and all sorts of stuff like that. Of course, they couldn't have more than Israel, so Israel got their share as well. But that's how they did it. So it's all a bunch of nonsense, in my opinion. Go ahead.
So hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Hillary, all these people in the past. I mean, you know, his defenders would say, well, he had to move in those circles. He was a billionaire. Of course, he would meet these people at dinner parties and such and be photographed with them. And he had to kind of gain their trust ready for this role. That's what they would say. Well,
he was good friends with Epstein, admittedly. He was quoted as saying he loves the younger women just like I do. You know, he has a taste for it, something like that. I'm paraphrasing. I would point everybody to an interview done by Whitney Webb with somebody, I forget the name of the lady, but she used to work for Epstein. And she said, you know, eyewitness, credible eyewitness too. Like, this isn't debated that she worked for Epstein. That she saw Trump there often, go upstairs with Epstein and young girls that used to come in and out of there. And she used to recruit young girls for Victoria's Secret shoots, quote unquote. But she used to recruit them for Epstein. And she used to drive around with Trump's wife, his ex-wife. And they both would find little girls and bring them back, you know, on the basis that it was a Victoria's Secret thing or a modeling thing. But I got to find the name of that interview. So I hope it's still on YouTube. It may have been taken down, but it was fascinating to hear. So I would point people in that direction. But beyond that, there's tons of evidence that links Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, they partied together, right? Mar-a-Lago, we have the whole deal that he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. Why did he do it, though? And when did he do it, right? Is all in play. You would think that people say that he did it because, you know, he wasn't going to put up with the pedophilia and he knew about it. But why didn't he turn him in if that was the case? And there were reports that they were fighting over a property, that Trump undercut Epstein over a property, and that's why they had a falling out. You know, and that's what happened. So, but they're linked together for sure. And there are people and listen, Trump is not a saint. I think there's 22 women that have accused him of rape. You know, you can go down a list of how many people have accused him of that. You know, he said really gross things about women, you know, many times. You can excuse it as locker room talk. I wouldn't, you know, he's gone very far. So it doesn't surprise me that he hangs out with pieces of trash like Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, that's pretty much it as far as the Trump red flags. I mean, we're now on to these other unexplained things. That's not Joe Biden. That's a pretty important point. Pretty important point that the man who is alleged to be the president of the United States isn't him. Kind of important.
Oh man, you know what? I can't begin to prove. I think it is Joe Biden. Joe Biden's pretty old. I think Joe Biden has very documented health issues, and you see that in play. But I don't know. Could it be a hologram? Absolutely. I'm not willing to rule that out. I personally don't think that it is, right? This is more of that lore that we can't prove. And we can go there.
I would just point people to do a Google image search of Joe Biden 2008. and you get an individual showing up there who looks nothing like the Joe Biden that we see today, and
That's
is
a long
presumably the
time.
original.
Right, that's a long time. It's
Yeah,
2021.
No, I mean, everything's different. It's just not the same man.
So these people use body doubles, but this isn't anything new. Like celebrities use them all the time, right? To throw off whatever, right? So could the body double be photographed? Absolutely. We have to start thinking in that manner. We can't always think, oh, it's a body double. Joe Biden is clearly dead. You know, he's dead. They killed his ass, right? Like, no, maybe it's just a body double. You know, maybe it's just a body double. Maybe we're onto something that he's using body doubles. But
I actually think Google have scrubbed some of these images, because I'm looking now, and I looked a few weeks ago, and I still see a few. I still see a few of the original guy, but a few weeks ago they were showing up, the original Joe Biden, and you could see it was a different guy. But I think they've manipulated the image search now, so you get mainly the one we have today. But as far as I'm concerned, it's not him. They switched him out.
I don't know how to prove that to you, right? And I don't think I can. I don't think anybody else can. But I will tell you this: like, people use body doubles just like people make hand gestures, and this has been overblown in our community, right? The whole Illuminati 666 hand gestures that are being made and all this other stuff. Everybody makes them. You can get a picture of anyone doing that, right? Are some people really doing it? Yeah. When you see all these artists covering up their right eye, that's not a coincidence. They're told to do that. For what reason, I can't tell you. But is Trump flashing Illuminati symbolism? I don't know. I don't give him that much credit, quite frankly. So maybe that's why. See, it turned me because I know this guy. So this is why a lot of things have been very different for me since 2016. I know this guy. And I'm like, man, Donald Trump is just a degenerate. He's just not a good guy. He's never been that. He's not a very smart guy. He started on third base. When we started on home plate, he started on third base because he had millions and millions of dollars that his father started the business. He took it and ran with it, of course.
I'm not looking forward to wading through the correspondence I'm going to get in response to this show.
I know.
I'm going to be spending all day, knocking back emails that I get in response to this.
Forward it over to me. The fact of the matter is, think about it. But when you send the correspondence, do you have concrete proof of any of this? And the fact of the matter is, we don't, man. We can't sit around and just assume for years upon years upon years and not see any results, because that's counterproductive. And it's designed to make us docile. It's designed to have us sit back and watch. We can't do that. We can't. So you can believe these things if you want. You want to do serious research into them, go ahead. But until we prove it, we got nothing. Right now, we got nothing. That's the way I feel.
So you addressed body doubles there, so I guess you would say that Hillary being too short of the inauguration would be just a double being used, as has been the case with so many of these people. What about the situation? This is more a British concern than an American one, but the British royal family, a CGI queen, a fake Prince Charles.
Yeah.
What's going on? Why would they need to do that?
Let's talk about that a little bit, man. I don't know why they need to do that. They probably are doing it, but let's talk about it in the context of Donald Trump and the QAnon narrative. I remember not too long ago, a few months ago, there was speculation of the new king of England. He the king. Forget his name.
Yeah, Joseph Gregory Hallett.
Right. That dude.
King John III.
The king of England. And he said, that they were remodeling Buckingham Palace, waiting for him. He gave the orders of what he needed up there, and that's what they were doing. They're just waiting for me to come in. It was also said that Donald Trump was running the United States, the White House, and the UK, because he was the one that facilitated this to happen, because he called the Queen and said, hey, listen up. Is this true about Joseph Gregory Hallett? And if it's true, you need to leave right now. And the Queen split, right? She's like, God damn, Trump has my number. I'm out of here. None of that is true. And we can't prove it. They were talking about, we haven't seen the Queen, and You can Google a couple of things and you find her at that. What's the other palace that they have?
Windsor Castle.
Or Windsor Castle. She's out there with a horse, chilling. This woman is, how old is she? 105? How she won't die.
She might as well be 94.
Right. 94, right? God bless her. I don't want her to die. I don't want anybody to die. But these people live a really long time. They have access to healthcare that we don't. Let's remember David Rockefeller lived forever and ever and ever and ever. He would not go. They have different lifestyles than we do. Are they doing digital body doubles of the queen? Maybe they are. But to what end is what we need to think. We can't think that there's a white hat takeover because we haven't seen the queen. Why haven't we seen the queen? Let's concentrate on that. We can use that as one of the possibilities. There's a white hat takeover, but really, let's take it with a grain of salt because we don't know and we can never prove that. One thing we can prove is that Gregory Hallett is not the King of England, and he will never be. Right? That was all a bunch of nonsense. You know what else was a bunch of nonsense? Donald Trump running the UK in the interim. That was all a bunch of nonsense. But it was interesting to listen to. I reached out to Gregory Hallett to have him on the show. I was going to ask him all sorts of questions. That's something that we don't do here in the alternative media anymore. We just have people on and say, "Oh, great. That's amazing."
Oh, you asked a few questions of Andy Kaufman. You sure did.
Yeah, well, listen, man. Going back to that, it's been a transformation in my journey here, man. And all I want to do is be transparent with it, with the people that listen to my show, and with the people that I speak to throughout the alternative media, your audience, people that may know me, people that may not. It's a transformation. It's a journey. That's why we're here. We're here to learn. And what I believed 2 years ago, what I believed a year ago, what I believed 6 months ago is very different from what I believe now. And if you catch me 6 months from now or a year from now or 2 years from now, I'll probably be a very different person at that point. What's that?
This is common ground that we have. You and I, the only thing we're interested in is the truth. That's all I want. I want the truth. It might be unsettling. It might be distressing, but I just want to know the truth.
Right.
And there's another site. There's a guy called Mel Fabregas that has Veritas Radio. I don't know if you're familiar with him. But on his website, he's got that phrase from the X-Files that says, "I want to believe." And he's got believe crossed through and replaced with no. I want to know.
Interesting.
And yeah, that's me. I just want the truth. And you and I may differ on our takes based on what we've seen and, information we've had access to. But the thing that unites us is all we ever want is the truth.
Right. I mean, why would we want anything different? And the truth is a hard pill to swallow. Right. The truth is not pretty. In order to get to the ultimate truth, we have to go through the hard truth. The ultimate truth is glorious and it's beautiful. But the hard truth on the way there it's tough. Going through lies is a beautiful thing, even though it leads you to damnation, right? It's easy to believe lies. It's easy to buy into them because you want to do it, right? It's beautiful and it's easy to understand and it's not emotionally taxing. It can be, at the end of it, but you want these things. So you want to believe. And I always say, because we want to know, but that's not the nature of our existence, in my opinion. What do we really know on this planet? Not much, right? A lot of it rests on belief and hoping and faith, right? And that's where I know that I know nothing at all, right? That's the biggest thing that I know is that I know nothing at all. Like, I really don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know why we're here. I don't know what's going on. I just don't know it. I believe certain things, right? And I have faith in certain things, but do I know? I don't know. And we have to apply some of that to some of the information that's been kicked around in the alternative media lately. And when people come on my show, if they have a narrative that they're peddling or pushing, they need to be ready to defend that narrative. I'm not going to let it slide. It's not something I'm willing to do anymore.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that on your show.
So
when I come on to talk about Musical Truth Volume 3, when I get that written, I'd better get my my story straight and have my citations to hand.
You always do, Mr. Devlin.
Which I will.
You always do. So I'm not worried about that at all.
I mean, half my friggin' book is the citations list.
Right. It's a break. All of these things. I still have to get autographs. I was wearing my Musical Truth hoodie the other day.
Oh, wow.
That you gifted me when we did the Shoot the Moon conference. And I was telling you off air that I want to do that again, right? I want to put together a conference, a bigger one this time. More people, more presenters.
And this time, Bill Gates won't be doing Event 201 across town on the same day.
What man, the way things work, right? The way life works. Right there, what did we know was about to go down? Like, how would we have even known that was going on?
Right. I mean, it chills me to think we were all there in that room sharing our information. And right across town, they were cooking up this scamdemic narrative.
Incredible, brother. Incredible. Like,
yeah.
But I always say we've been put here for a reason. And what that reason is, right? I always think about it and people want to see immediate victory, which is part of why QAnon took hold and spread. They want to see a victory in our lifetime. It'd be beautiful to see that and to enjoy something close to a utopia on earth, right? The fact of the matter is we probably won't. The probability of us seeing that is not high, but we need to know our role in this thing, and our role is to lay the foundation, to build upon it, to lay a solid foundation for our children and our children's children, to be able to fight the war, to be able to turn this thing into a utopia. We are not the ones that are going to see the promised land, but we may be the ones to push the next generations into the promised land. And that's our role. That's what we need to do. And that's what I want to promote. That's what I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of that, of the generation that knocked down a few doors and pushed just a little bit more, a few inches towards something better, right? That's what I want to be a part of. And that's what I feel the alternative media I thought that was what we were a part of. And I think we've lost our way and we need to come back.
Sure. Sounds about right to me. Sounds like a good place to wrap up as well. So
I wanted to give you a few more things on the election before we get out of here.
Just circle back around to that before we finish off then.
10 minutes and we're out, right? I was thinking the same thing, by the way. I was like, you know what? This would be a good place to end.
Yeah, it's a classic quotation.
I really want to hit this. So at the end of this election, right, everybody was like, it's clear evidence, right? Clear evidence that Donald Trump was robbed. And there's mountains and mountains of evidence that there was election fraud and we're going to overturn these elections and it's going to be a wrap, right? That didn't happen, right? And people, again, want to justify why this didn't happen. But let's take a look at what's really going on, right? Sidney Powell, she's here with me right now. Hold on for a second. There she goes. Hold on for a second.
I'm going to release the Kraken.
There you go. There's Sidney Powell. She's going to release the Kraken. She is being sued by Dominion for $1 billion. $1 billion right now. Rudolph Giuliani is being sued by Dominion for $1 billion. That's with a B. Okay. Either this is because Trump was like, this is the greatest legal team assembled. So what happened with the greatest legal team assembled? Either they had no evidence or they really didn't know what they were doing in the courtroom because they had all this evidence and it went nowhere. They're both getting sued for $1 billion. I don't know about Lynn Wood and how much he's getting sued for, but it's only a matter of time before that happens.
Or the U.S. Supreme Court is corrupt as hell, as many would claim.
How many, though? How many courts are corrupt as hell? Because it wasn't just the U.S. Supreme Court. What made it to the Supreme Court? And they lost a ton of them. They lost almost all of them.
Maybe every court is corrupt, though. The whole damn system is rotten.
I mean, we can think that, or we can think the alternative. They didn't have the evidence. They didn't have and you know why I know they didn't have the evidence, or I believe they didn't have the evidence? Because of all the retractions. Everybody's running around saying no. Sidney Powell's defense team just said that if you believed, and I'm paraphrasing here, that you shouldn't have reasonably reasonably believed what she was saying because it was parody. That just came out, because it was parody, what she was saying, that it was so unbelievable that you shouldn't have believed it, is what they said. And I have Newsmax here. I want to play this before we get out of here because it's Newsmax retracting everything they said about the election.
Various guests, attorneys, and elected officials have appeared on Newsmax and offered opinions and claims about Smartmatic and Dominion Systems, both companies that offer voting software in the U.S. And Newsmax would like to clarify its news coverage and note that it has not reported as true certain claims made about these companies. There are several facts our viewers and readers should be aware of. Newsmax has found no evidence that either Dominion or Smartmatic owns the other or has any business association with each other. We have no evidence that Dominion uses Smartmatic software or vice versa. No evidence has been offered that Dominion or Smartmatic use software or reprogrammed software that manipulated votes in the 2020 election. Smartmatic has stated that its software was only used in the 2020 election in Los Angeles, was not used in any battleground state contested by the Trump campaign. Newsmax has no evidence to the contrary. Dominion has stated the company has no ownership relationship with the Pelosi family, the Feinstein family, the Clinton family, Hugo Chavez, or the government of Venezuela. Neither Dominion nor Smartmatic has any relationship with George Soros. Smartmatic is a U.S. company and not owned by the Venezuelan government, Hugo Chavez, or any foreign official or entity. Smartmatic states that it has no operations in Venezuela. While the company did election projects in Venezuela from 2004 to 2017, it states it was never founded by Hugo Chavez, nor did it have a corrupt relationship with him or the Venezuelan government. For more on this, please go to our website at newsmax.com. Read facts about Dominion Smartmatic that you should know.
That was cringeworthy, man, to see that on television. This guy have to read that because they were peddling nonsense for this entire time. And it's cringeworthy to see a Lindsey Powell or a Lynn Wood and what they had to do, and now they're pulling all back. But who's laughing all the way to the bank with this? Donald Trump. He raised close to $1 billion on his legal defense team for saying that he had lost, the election was stolen from him. And this is something that he's done for years prior to the election, right? When Barack Obama and Mitt Romney were running for the presidency and Barack Obama won by a landslide, he said that Barack Obama cheated, that Mitt Romney was robbed and it was election fraud and it was due to the machines. That's what he said. When Ted Cruz beat him in the primaries, he said it was election fraud, that he didn't lose, that it was election fraud. When Hillary Clinton won the popular vote here in the United States, he said that the only reason she won the popular vote was because of election fraud. That's the only reason. This is his narrative. This is how he justifies losing. And that's why it was important to play this clip, to hear Newsmax backpedal. And now you're going to see, you're seeing everybody else that was a part of that legal team run for the hills. Because once somebody starts throwing around $1 billion lawsuits, everything changes. If you have the truth on your side, you go ahead and move forward and say, but I have the truth. But now they're getting slapped with stuff. It was a mind operation that took place. It was a grifting operation that was done. There's several different layers to this onion, but at the very top, it's military grade psychological warfare waged on the American people and the people of the world, on the British people, on the Brazilian people, on the North African people, on the people of Trinidad, the people of the world. All right, SEL Group, Cambridge Analytica, and tons others that we probably know nothing about at this point. Colonizing our minds, telling us what to do, and making us believe that it's our choice. That's the problem here, Mark.
Right. This will have been a show that a whole load of my listeners won't have enjoyed hearing. And in the same way that I was never 100% on board with the Q thing, I was veering in that direction. I was swaying towards it. I was giving it a lot of time. I'm not going to say that I'm 100% the other way either, and that I've completely given up on it. But you have made some very compelling points. I've taken them all on board, and I really want you to be wrong.
But I want to be wrong, Mark.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll tell you this. I'll come on here, man. The day after, I'll be the first one on Good Vibrations, one of my favorite podcasts of all time. I'll come on here and be like, damn, I was wrong, wasn't I? Good. I'm so happy that I was wrong. Now I don't have to deal with all of this nonsense. Of course I didn't believe, but I believe now. I'm very sorry. What are the odds of that happening, Mark?
It's a good thing that you would even be prepared to do that, because I would be very happy to do the same. I would love nothing more than to come on a show and say, you know what? I should have had more faith.
Right.
I should have had more patience. As long as there's evidence to prove that something is happening, you know, I would not do that show before we can know for sure that there's validity to it, because opinions don't count as validity. But I would love to do that show. I want to do a show saying that I should have trusted the plan. And I'll tell you something, in some really kind of twisted way, I'm sort of hoping that I'm preempting the universe to cause something to happen by putting this show out there. I mean, I get that the universe and humanity is a lot bigger than me and my little podcast. But the best way I can explain it to you is, I can remember, this has happened to me a few times in life, this dynamic. But before I met the woman who is currently my wife, I spent months and months and months really wanting to get a girlfriend and longing for it, wanting it so hard. And in the end, I just reached a point where I said, you know what? I just don't care anymore. Fuck it. I'm through. Right. I don't care. As soon as I reached that point, I met the woman who has been my wife for the last 17 years. Yeah. And this dynamic has happened to me a few times. I've wanted something so bad, and then I've given up and I've said, oh, I just don't care anymore. And it's happened. And so I'm kind of hoping that in some, as I say, very bizarre way, I might be triggering the universe to cause something to happen by putting this show out. Probably not, but that's the thought that's at the back of my mind.
It just may not come in the way you're thinking, you know, but it might come when you put it out there. The hope lies in you.
You let go of all attachment to the outcome. That's the thing.
Right. The hope lies in you, right? You're making the change. Everybody listening is making the change. We have to do it. So can you achieve what it is you want? Absolutely. Just don't wait for them to do it for you. We have to do it. We have to move forward and do it. And that's happened to me on several occasions, and it's happening to me very recently that I've asked for things, and then I don't think these things are going to happen, and it's heartbreaking. And I'm, you know, I'm in a situation and I'm like, damn, you know, like I really wanted that to happen. And then you resign yourself and say, yeah, it's not going to happen. And you move forward and you move on, and then boom, there it is.
It's when you let go of it that it happens.
You know, and it's Taoism, I think. Letting go, right? It's important, and there's something to it. Yeah. But I understand the wants. I want to believe. That's the phrase, right? I want to believe that I'm wrong here. I do more than anything in the world. I want to believe that I'm wrong.
Right.
Because that would radically change my life and everybody else's. The thing is, it's probably not the case. And I want to make an appeal to the audience, man. Listen, I'm here with you. I'm putting out this information, but I'm right there with all of you. You know, it's the mind control is for all of us. It's not exclusive to a particular group, even though I think we as the alternative media and as conspiracy theorists were singled out. I think we were primed for this, and it was injected into us to deliver it to the rest of the world. I think we were the ones that were singled out for this. It's like I always liken it to diabetes and the Latin American community, where we're prone for it. We were the ones as the alternative media and as conspiracy theorists, name whatever you want, conspiracy analysts. We were the ones that were more susceptible to the work. We were the ones that were more susceptible to being infected with this, and they knew it. So they put out drain the swamp because, you know, we hate the swamp, and they put out lock her up because we hated Hillary Clinton. They infected us, and we infected the rest of the world. That's what happened. And it was genius, but we recognize it now. And we know that nothing has happened. We can still believe, I guess, that we can shoot it down. Hey, maybe April 1st, April Fool's Day, something goes down. Aha, joke's on the New World Order. Or maybe on July 4th. Who knows, right? JFK Jr. comes back from the dead and it's all over. But the probability of that happening is incredibly low, almost next to impossible. And anybody that's telling you different is maybe inadvertently or intentionally lying to you. I don't ever want to say that I lied to you. I don't ever want anybody to say that. So I don't know if what I'm saying is true, but I'm certainly not lying to you. Go ahead, man.
We just got to be adult about this and mature, and
right.
We wouldn't accept these kind of things in normal circumstances. Somebody saying, "Oh, it's going to happen next week. Oh no, next month. Oh no, in 2 months. Oh, next Thursday." Ordinarily we would kick all that out and say, "Get out of here. You're full of crap. Nothing you say comes true. Why would I give you the time of day anymore?" So we've got to apply that to this one. We've had a year of promises. And again, I have to acknowledge none of this is coming from the Q drops because they never put dates on things. But it's all these pundits. Oh, it's coming, it's happening. And it never does. We just got to be mature about it and grown up about it. And
Q has made many predictions that haven't come true. They don't put dates on stuff, but I can make a prediction and not put a date on it. Tomorrow, if I say tomorrow, that's putting a date on it. But I could just say, it will rain frogs, and leave that open, and people will believe it. Well, he never said when it was going to rain frogs, so we can say that about Q all day long. But the thing is, 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, actually, it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. It's been a military grade operation, a LARP, a live action role playing game that a lot of people have been incorporated into for several different reasons: for mind control, for culture creation, for culture wars, and for experimental purposes to see what makes people tick and how far they can make you go. What can they make you do? And they're figuring that all out right now.
All right. It's been really good to catch up with you again, bro. I wish the subject matter had been happier, but it is what it is in 2021. Just remind folks where they can get hold of your podcast, The Infinite Fringe. You're still doing stuff on Iconic, I believe, and everything else you got going on.
I am all over the place, okay? I want to give a big shout to my boy John Brissom. I want to give a big shout to Neil Sanders. Your thoughts are not your own. I want to give a big shout to Recluse Steven Snyder, Fourth Generation Warfare. I want to give a big shout to those 4 guys. Tony Atterburn, I want to give a big shout to him. These are people that get it, in my opinion, and they've helped me out throughout this whole journey, and we want to continue to go down that route. So I want to give a big shout to all of them. Go check out their work. Go check out what they're doing. You're not going to agree with everything with all of these people, but you might find some value on it. As for me, I'm all over the place. You can find the Infinite Fringe, where we talk about heavy subjects sometimes, but sometimes we talk about some loose ones. I'm trying to get back to that and enjoy what I'm doing again, right? The infinitefringe.podbeam.com, the Infinite Fringe on Apple Podcast. And you can find the Infinite Fringe over on Aftermath Media now. That's Clyde Lewis's new venture of a Ground Zero Radio. And I'm over there also. So go check it, you can find me at Iconic. Shouts to Richard Willett, Jamie Ike, Gareth Ike, and David Ike, who housed me over there, America Unplugged. You can find that on Sundays over there exclusively on Iconic. You can find me on Truth Frequency Radio at 7 p.m. Eastern doing a show called Live from the Kill Shed. It used to be the Infinite Fringe there, but I moved that over to Aftermath Media. Now I'm doing Live from the Kill Shed with John Brissom. We're only 3 episodes in. It's a fun time. And there's a lot of people that get triggered by what we're saying also. So there is that. The infinitefringe@gmail.com. Send me any emails you want, man. I'll try to answer them as best as possible. And thank you. Thank you for your ears. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for coming on today, man.
Thank you, buddy.
This is just for fun.
Vibrations, I'm picking up vibrations, I'm picking up